What up, everybody? It's Ponter here, and today we've got a special game, a groundbreaking game. A game for the history books. It's a match mode game on Seaside. It's gonna be a 5v5 match mode with very good teams, but some very interesting strats. And we're gonna be on the USA side, and today we're gonna see double support versus double support. You guys thought, okay, double support, it's kind of a meme. It's a meme strategy pushed by Whisk mainly. But I've also just seen it done in all sorts of other cases. I think it is a legitimate, it's not a total meme strategy. It's kind of legitimate. But what we're seeing now, it's not like a bizarro world Wick where we've just like gone crazy. What we're seeing is a healthy meta is beginning to evolve. And what I mean is, and this is kind of reminding me of back in the day, people are adapting to dominant strategy by finding suboptimal counters to the dominant strategies and then using those. So, for instance, a really good strategy is, let's say, double heavy air. And people have typically gone with medium air as the counter. But the medium air counter hasn't worked out very well in the last few months. So people have sought out other solutions to, okay, how do we deal with a double heavy air bang early on? And a hard counter to that is double support. But what happens, for instance, when you pick double support to counter a potential heavy air bang and they don't go heavy air? And usually that would spell disaster, because most strategies that aren't double heavy air are going to be double armor, which hard counters double support, or double infantry, which on this map also hard counters double support. But there is another option where both teams could potentially go double support. And this is definitely something I haven't considered. I haven't been thinking about this particular matchup because, how likely is it going to be that you're going to get that? But it turns out that is actually something that is quite likely to happen. And then when you have a mirror matchup, it becomes a skill issue. So it's not determined by, oh, my strat beats your strat. It's not a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing. It's who can punch harder and who can punch better, because it's a mirror matchup. And also, one thing I think we have to remember when we're considering all these crazy strats is no plan, survives first contact with the enemy. The enemy can always react. So, and you can also react to the revelation that, okay, I go double support and it's their double support. What do I do? I can change my strategy. I can tell my flex player to make a switch. But, both teams can do that, and then it becomes, okay, what team can switch better? And this is a skill, again, I've been harping on this in the last few videos. How do you organize a team to switch properly? And just speaking of the teams, I've got myself as air. Spirit Gun is main support. Alien is also support, but he's flex. We've got the Rapture, which is Prathix. I think that's his name. I can't remember. Like, he just came out of the blue. Like, he's an old school player. He's like J-Man 2.0 or something. He just reminds me of J-Man. Like, I don't know a guy. I think he's friends with J-Man. He's like he knows his shit though, and it's so nice to have yet another awesome player who thinks about the game at a high level. We were doing some wacky strats later on, but here we go. I immediately see, okay, Small Island is air, Whisk is armor, and I'm searching desperately to figure out what's going on. I see Donald is on support, and then I see Blitz is on support. And this is just like, we're laughing in the VC. We're like, what the fuck is going on here? I can't believe this has happened. I mean, we've been flirting with this for a while. Any team with Whisk you know, you're gonna have to assume that it's gonna be double support because he's pushing it so hard. And this is where we're really getting closer to where we were at in 2008, let's say, when there was a healthy competitive scene and teams were constantly metagaming each other, trying to figure out, look at this, like we almost get the cap, but we get wiped out there. I pull back again. I want to conserve the choppers to snipe the heavy because when you're up against double support, you can't fight the support player as air. You have to fight the armor. So I see this heavy as blocking or cap. I'm going to thread the needle, push in here, chuck all my hellfires and missiles in there, dump my flares, and then I'm going to back out. You know, I'm just going to reverse right out of there, preserve the choppers, and we get the cap. That's all you need. So you have to change your strategy as an air player in this double support situation, and also cope to your team about it, saying like how hard it is to be an air player in these situations. But back to the metas. In the old days, teams would be secretive about their strategy, you know, and they would have a strategy in mind for every map and every side, and then they would have contingency strats based on, okay, I'm going to start double heavy air and bang them. Okay, if they go mediums, then we're going to switch into armor, blah, blah, blah. So you'd have these, and then you'd also have these elaborate kind of strats, and this is kind of the next phase that we'll have to get to eventually, where you have very much controlled, like down to the TA, like every TA is accounted for in that initial cap, and it goes to a certain player, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, what has happened with this team is they lost the town infantry fight, and it's kind of remarkable, and we're just gonna ignore this fail. Like, again, I'm playing against the armor, but my scout, I should have pulled back the scout and get reps, but the reps aren't down yet. I charge in, and they rightly pick off my scout first, and then I lose my entire deck of choppers. Like, my whole stack of choppers is gone. That's embarrassing. But in the meantime, it's not looking good for these guys, and this is the issue with double support. You really struggle with the pushing, and I think they really struggled with the decaps, and this is what I've seen a lot of players, and you know, even good players have made this mistake, is not being aggressive with the decaps. Like, you have to look, like, our inf is not in these buildings, and he's actually pulling away from those buildings. If there's no inf in these buildings and you control these woods, and just notice there's some team killing going on over here. If there's no inf in there, decap immediately. You have to. And then same thing with the beach. Like, you got to decap the beach. And then we've been aggressively pushing over here as well, just kind of pressuring all sides of the map. And in the meantime, even though they were double support, they're not covering. They don't have town lockdown, and they're not protecting town from me. And notice, we're just gonna pause it here. This is where everything. So they were heavily pushed, and they lost the town engagement, and they lacked the kind of wherewithal to decap immediately and prevent that brutal tick. And then the flanks collapsed, and there was pressure on both sides of the flanks, and they were unable to decap beach, and they were unable to capture this. So, you know, Alien's being cringe with the medium arty, and then we have this. We have the heavy arty, and again, I've been harping on this for many videos. Don't go arty with double support, especially if your team is going to switch up, because now you have like half a support. You went from having 2 support players to having half a support player, and you have to deal with a full air player. Like I was almost ready to just dive and kill Donald right there, just on general principle. I have to, many reasons, but you know, I'm trying to be responsible as an air. So they switch off, and what do they switch to? They switch to heavy air, which is like pretty dubious, because it's still double support. Look, there's double support on the field. We haven't switched off of it. Why would you do something? And this is me. I was going for the Donald kill, but he covered himself. But again, he has half the AA that he should. And I mean, this is a miscommunication, and this is also a point I want to make. You know, disorganized teams are gonna lose very often, again, in these crazy 5v5s that we're playing right now, where there's lots and lots of switching and there's really advanced strategies. And for instance, when we were playing another Seaside game with the Rapture, he wanted us to do double armor, which is awesome. So you look at me again, I'm killing the armor. He wanted to play double armor on this map, but that's predicated on having an air player play mediums. And again, if you're from the old days, back in the day, you know, people were posting, like, that's a normal thing, is you just have a medium player and double armor, and that's it. No heavy air. But we had Prue on our team. Prue didn't listen. We said, okay, we're going to do double armor. We're going to do medium air. Get ready. He doesn't do medium air. And we lost that game. So, and then I think this is what happened with this one. Like, you had Donald get in the arty, and maybe he assumed that they were going to stay double support. And then you had the flex player took too long to switch, and they switched to heavies. So, like, there's a lot of communication and kind of responsibility and conscientiousness, basically, that needs to go into account. And I was fine with double support because we told Elian, okay, you're flex. And I know Elian can play any role really well. So let him play flex. It'll be fine. And so I don't begrudge the wacky strats. But, you know, with these teams are still not fully, they're not 100% yet. Like, you're always going to have kind of some weaker players. And, you know, you have to take that into account. You have to have really good communications, and you have to recognize, like, hey, if I have a weak player and I'm making them play flex, you know, we're gonna have to deal with the consequences of that. In the meantime, they're getting a kind of a push back into town, and I'm just YOLOing into support. Like, there's no armor here. That's kind of a throw on my account, but we also don't have a lot of armor in town to deal with the support, so I might as well kill it. And if you notice, right now there's just a furious discussion going on in our VC on the TA situation. And what we really want to do is just drop a nuke and end it before they can even affect a comeback. And again, this is why this kind of really risky, and I'll just say they're risky strategies, like, and look at me getting air to air, that's great. They're risky strategies because they're execution based. I mean, every strategy is an execution based, but this one really exposes you to a lot of, let's say, execution risk when, you know, if their team out switches you, or if you pick the wrong switch, if the strategy's not working, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And, you know, we just got caps of town, and this is what Seaside always ends up being, is caps of town, who capped the town most and who held it the longest and who worked over the flanks the most. Like, you get shit like this. Like, Elian has just been camping here the whole time, and they've never been able to dislodge him. And yeah, they decap town, but they've kind of lost the infight, which is crazy. I guess, you know, the Rapture is a solid in player. Like, he hasn't been playing a lot. Like, this is the first games that I've seen him play ever. He's just been kind of a silent partner in it's like kind of really an elitist veteran nerd who never plays, and then he just comes in and holds it down versus Kickapoo. So I really hope he comes back, and I really want to pull off some double heavy armor strats with him. But yeah, we're just tossing TA around and waiting for the inevitable nuke, and we don't even need it at this point. The Spirit Gun drops it. I think he had enough TA for double. At least that's what I've heard on the VC. But we're just bleeding them out. And this was a mere strategy, but it was execution failure. And kind of a reaction failure. Like, the double heavy air didn't work. Maybe the double armor switch would have worked a lot more. But yeah, there it is. Teams weren't entirely equal. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty close. And yeah, that's a good double support game. Double support. Who would have thought that we would be seeing that, and that we would be seeing the meta evolve? You know, we're in the last few months, the meta's evolved a lot. And I think a lot of this was the Euros. I mean, the NA grew, and the Euros, there's lots of bad blood, and I think the Euros haven't been around in a while, so I kind of miss them. But damn, like, they really did start up a whole bunch of new metas just by kind of injecting themselves into the match mode scene. And also, like, I gotta shout out Weesk. Like, Weesk definitely brought back the double support. Really, so kudos to him. Hopefully we'll see some more crazy strats out there. Yeah, take it easy, guys. And yeah, bubble support kind of works.